Have you ever really stopped to think about the magic that's happening inside your headphones or the soundbar under your TV? We're surrounded by speakers all day, every day, and they perform this task that seems kind of impossible, turning pure, silent electricity into the music and sounds that move us. So let's unravel that magic.
I mean, we see these elegant boxes in our living rooms all the time, right? They promise crystal clear, amazing audio. But how on earth do they do it? They take a completely silent electrical signal and somehow turn it into the soundtrack of our lives. It's a truly fascinating process.
So yeah, that's the big question we're going to tackle. How does a box full of magnets and wires create the music you love? I promise, it's not magic, but it's a beautiful dance of physics that might as well be.
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we've got to follow the signal. Let's start with the big picture, the 30,000-foot view, and just trace the path from a digital file all the way to the sound hitting your ears.
It all starts with data. That digital data gets converted into a fluctuating electrical current. That current, in turn, generates a magnetic force. Now, this is the key. That force makes a part of the speaker, the diaphragm, vibrate back and forth, and that movement is what literally pushes and pulls the air, creating the sound waves that reach your ears. It's this incredible chain reaction from the digital world right into the physical one.
Now, of course, there's a fancy technical term for a speaker. It's an electroacoustic transducer. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Electro for electricity, acoustic for sound. But here's the really cool part. A speaker is the exact reverse of a microphone. A mic captures sound to create an electrical signal. A speaker uses an electrical signal to create sound. They're literally two sides of the very same coin.
So how does this engine actually work? Well, it's all based on something called the moving coil principle. And get this, it's such a brilliant piece of engineering that it's been the heart and soul of speakers for over 100 years.
And this image, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the pioneers, Edward Kellogg and Chester Reis, with their invention from 1925. And on the right, you have a cutaway of a modern speaker. I mean, look at them. The core design is virtually unchanged. They absolutely nailed it a century ago, and we're still using their brilliant idea today.
All right, here's the play-by-play. The electrical signal for your music flows through a little coil of wire, called a voice coil. This creates a magnetic field around it that changes with the music. That field then interacts with a permanent magnet sitting nearby, forcing the coil to vibrate back and forth perfectly in sync with the song. And since that coil is attached to a cone, the cone moves too, pushes air, and voila, you've got sound waves. It's such a simple, elegant system.
So that little dance between the coil and the magnet, that's the key to everything. Now let's zoom in and take a closer look at the anatomy of a speaker driver to see how all of these pieces fit together. Okay, let's take a quick tour. You can see the big permanent magnet, the voice coil, which receives the signal, the cone or diaphragm that actually moves the air, and the suspension, which is what keeps it all perfectly in line. Every single part here has a critical role to play.
And each of these components is a little marvel of engineering. The diaphragm acts like a piston, and the material it's made from, paper, plastic, even high-tech metals, is all about finding that perfect balance of being super stiff but also incredibly light. The voice coil is just a simple wire, the magnet provides the muscle, and the suspension acts like a spring system to keep everything perfectly aligned. It's a really finely tuned machine.
So we've got the basics of a single driver down. But why do most good speakers have a whole team of them? Let's find out why you need these individual players to come together and create a true symphony of sound. Well, it all comes down to a pretty simple trade-off in physics. A big, heavy cone is perfect for moving lots of air to create that booming bass, but it's just too sluggish to vibrate fast enough for delicate, high-pitched sounds. And a tiny, light cone? It's great for zippy treble notes, but it can't push enough air to give you any real bass. You just can't have it all in one driver.
So speaker designers use a team of specialists. You have the large woofer, which handles the low-frequency bass. Just think of a dog's woof. Then you've got the tiny tweeter, which handles the high-frequency treble, like a bird's tweet. And in many systems, you'll also find a mid-range driver that covers everything in between, which is super important because that's where most vocals and instruments live.
But wait, how does the music signal get divided up properly? That is the job of the audio crossover. You can think of it as a musical traffic cop. It's a circuit board inside the speaker box that takes the full signal, splits it into different frequency lanes, and sends only the bass to the woofer, the treble to the tweeter, and so on. It makes sure each driver only gets the frequencies it's built to handle.
All right, we've got our dream team of drivers and a crossover to direct them. But what about the house they live in? That speaker box isn't just for looks. It's a hugely important part of the sound.
Here's why the box is so essential. As the speaker cone pushes forward, it also pulls back. This creates a sound wave from the rear that's perfectly out of sync with the front. If these two waves meet, they cancel each other out, especially the bass frequencies. An unboxed speaker sounds incredibly thin and just lifeless.
So, the enclosure's first job is to trap that pesky rear wave so it can't cause cancellation. Job number 2 is to absorb unwanted sound reflections inside the box, usually with materials like foam. And finally, the specific design of the box, whether it's totally sealed or has a little vent called a port, is how engineers can actually tune the bass response and shape the overall sound of the speaker.
So there you have it, a team of drivers, a crossover, and a very carefully crafted box, all working together in harmony. But how did we get to this sophisticated design? Let's take a quick trip back in time.
Get this. The first commercial speaker sold back in 1926 cost $250. In today's money, that's over $4,000 for a single speaker. It really makes you appreciate the incredible audio technology that we all have access to today.
The innovation, of course, didn't stop there. The 1930s brought us multi-driver systems. And then in 1954, the acoustic suspension enclosure revolutionized everything, giving us big bass from small boxes for the first time. And today, we're still pushing the boundaries with new materials, computer-aided design, and super strong magnets. You know, the quest for perfect sound, it never really ends. When you think about it, for 100 years, the story of the speaker has been about perfecting a simple but brilliant idea, a vibrating cone in a box. It's a testament to human ingenuity. But it really begs the question, what's next? After a whole century of refining this one technology, what could possibly be the next quantum leap in the art of turning electricity into sound?